Hi, BookTube, it's Amy. I'm back again with a reading from the private papers of Bankrupt Bookseller by Will Y. Darling. Quick reminder, this is a work of fiction. Today we are beginning on page 162 with a section titled, Alas, the Unreturning Past. Quite a nice young girl brought one of A. Milne's today. And as she took it from me, she accidentally upset a rectangular tower of books by the same author, which I had set out for display. She was very profuse with her apologies. I stooped to pick up the fallen books, and as my eyes rested on the floor at her feet, I noticed her shoes. They were neat and I suppose graceful, but they did not thrill me as once thrilled by a pair of buttoned boots. How I adored those buttoned boots of a long-lost love! I could not exchange the memory of them for a caravan of a crocodile and snakeskins indeed, not a whole shop full of lizard shoes. The next section is titled Books for Out of Doors. Give to me the life I love, declares the young devotee of Robert Louis Stevenson. And I see her Travels with a Donkey and Inland Voyage and the neat little RLS anthology, which Chatto and Windus publish. She wears a short tweed skirt and spends her weekdays as a milliner next door and her weekends on the moors. I have seen the man in the case, however, and I am not sure that the minx is just playing up to him. It is enough, however, that she buys books in the present. The future is hers. After her departure, I replaced the out-of-doors books, which I have. What a lot there are nowadays. Time was when literature was a thing of the steady and of the hearth. Now it has left these safe anchorages for the hills. It is a high test. Any book is readable in a chair by the fireside, but few authors can stand being taken out of doors. They, all of them, smell of the lamp, and the lamp avails little under the sun or the stars. Books, it is asserted, are a mighty poor substitute for life, and it is a bold man who would attempt the exchange. Still, there are some, and I can comment on them as I put them back one by one on their shelf. First of all, in popularity, I think in place is Evie Lucas's Open Road, published, as all Evie Lucas's writings are, by Methuen. It cannot be beaten in its way, but if I were looking for an alternative, if I found a customer who already had the Open Road, my second string would be the Weekend Book, published by Nonsuch Press. It is the brightest product of the bright young things, who are so bright just now that even a bookseller must notice them. Among my second-hand books, dated 1906 and published by T.N. Foulis, is The Footpath Way. This book has always puzzled me because, although published in 1906, there is written on the front page, Evie with Eva's Love, 1905. Perhaps the donor got an advance copy, but the 1905 on the inscription and the publisher's 1906 have always puzzled me. Maybe Evie mistook the year. Let us hope there was no mistake about the love. These waifs of books I specially love, and I am fond of The Footpath Way. Alfred H. Hyatt compiled the collection, and there is a lot of good prose and poetry in it. Richard Jefferies starts out the way with us, and there is little left unobserved or unremarked by one or other of our distinguished companions. The book ends with Stevenson's envoy, and I will confess I am glad when the minx, who is also a milliner, bought the Open Road, of which I have a second copy, and left me with my Footpath Way. Maps are in many ways the best outdoor companions, and I keep a stock. It always happens that I am out of the map that is wanted, but I am fairly successful in getting inquirers to wait. The ordnance maps are a joy and a boon, but curiously enough, they have never driven me out of doors. Instead, I crease my stomach lying over my counter, poring over unfamiliar names and places a bare 10 miles from my door. I ought to get out and see these places for myself, but the native lethargy of my disposition, and may it not be, the necessity and attraction of my calling keep me to my shop. I recollect the quotation from Eastward Ho by Chapman, Johnson, and Marston, and I take its words for my comfort. Keep thy shop, and thy shop will keep thee. The same words, I am informed by a reliable source, are to be found in Benjamin Franklin's Poor Richard, but I have no copy of either work, although I accept the counsel. It is a commandment with promise, like the fifth in the Holy Writ. It would be better for my health, however, if I had to keep my shop less and see more of the outdoor life. If I were a man and not a cog, I would run off, just shut my door and go. I might take Burroughs' Guide to the Scottish Highlands, for example, and refuse to return until I had been to Balchurlish. It is sad to think that I will die, and I will never even see Balchurlish, far less Bombay or Ballarat or the Berwick Islands. Alice in Wonderland like. I have a fancy to go to all the places that begin with a B. There is Bradford, and Bradford on Avon, and Birmingham, but this is foolishness. The only B's with which I have concern are the B's that begin Books and Bookseller. Books for the open air? Yes, madame. Here is Thomson's Seasons. No, not a new book, written by a Scotchman in the first quarter of the 18th century. It deals with the 4 seasons of the year. Out of date? No, the seasons are still spring, summer, autumn, and winter, just as when James Thomson wrote on them. Dreadful? Ah, The City of Dreadful Night. That is another James Thomson. Not the same. You mean the seasons are dreadful? Yes, they do say they are changing, something with more incident. Yes, of course. Now here is an incident, and all out of doors. On the road with Wellington. It is, you can see by the cover, a diary of a war commissary on the Peninsular Campaign, published by William Heinemann. A German book? Yes, but not like All Quiet on the Western Front. Not at all. Yes, I would call All Quiet on the Western Front an outdoors book, but it deals with very unpleasant weather. Scotland? Yes, of course, I have In Search of Scotland by an Englishman. He seems to have found something, or would you like to see this one? The Call of the Pentlands. No, it is not the name of a family. Indeed, of course, it is the name of a family, but the book is about the hills. Yes, I have a number of other suggestions. Here is a book on the British colonies, published by Blackie, certainly an out-of-door book, if not also an out-of-date one. I have The State is a Farmer, Hills, and the Sea, The Path of Rome. Would any of these interest you? I have a great choice of books. Yes, I believe it is very good. I haven't read it. Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon. Would you believe it? The creature who wanted a book for out-of-door bought Eat and Grow Thin, a diet book published by Putnam's. Anyway, it was a sale, and a sale to me in these days is about as welcome as a sale would be to the ancient mariner. There are no ideal books for out-of-doors. The answer that any honest man should get to give to those who come looking for books for out-of-doors is Get Out. I remember a book, Get On or Get Out by Peter B. Keary. The Daily Express published it not long ago. The lads who read it, I wonder, have they got on or got out? How I hark on the war. It is a real impediment to me in business, and yet how can I go on and not think of what I have seen and what I have heard? And the next section here on page 166 is titled Insomnia. This will not do. I have been awake for hours. I lay on my back in my bed, and though I could not see it in the dark, thought of the ceiling. I thought of the whitewash on it, the streakiness, the hairs left by the painter's brush, the fly dirt, and then the plaster, the grittiness of it, mixed as it is with cow's hair. I thought on. I came to the laths, and then the rafters on which they are nailed, and then the beams. I thought of the space between the beams and the roof tree, a sort of attic where unsaleable books are piled. I thought on, up, to the top of the roof. I passed through the slates and was on the zinc coping. I thought on, freezing myself on things tangible. I was up in the air, all through the atmosphere. I was passing the moon and the stars. I was out beyond the stars. I was in space. I thought on and on. It was endless, timeless. I was hungry with thought, thirsty with thought. I was frozen cold and consumed with fire by turns. I was sick. A vertigo took me. I lost my balance. I fell. I kept on falling. My mind was falling out of my body. I was going mad. I only saved myself by leaping out of bed and holding myself against the wall of the room. I say it is too bad. Such experiences ought not to come to booksellers. And the next section here is titled Books for Prizes, but once again, it is a rather long one. So we will save that one for the next reading. But I hope you enjoyed that today.